Sections 19, 20, 21, and 22 of Sree Krishna, the Lord of Love, by Baba Premanand Bharati. Section 19. Now comes to be considered the question of questions, how to do away with and avoid bad karma. If karma is the cause of all our sufferings in life, how to remove that cause? We have before this had births, until actions in those innumerable births have produced countless karma seeds. All these seeds are stored up in the repository of the mind. How is it possible, it may be asked, to destroy them all and prevent fresh accumulation of new karma seeds in the present birth? To those who ask this question seriously, that is, with a serious intention of acting upon any suggestion that may seem feasible to them, the answer is pregnant with all the essentials of a true solution. To such, the answer is simple, and the mode of solution simpler. To the really serious soul, hungering for freedom from the bondage of karma, even the practice of the principle of the advice may strike as still more simple, but the practice involves the full realization of the source of karma, the perfect understanding of its laws, their operations, and their relations to his own individual self. Here I will try to put the philosophy of this solution as briefly as possible. If our actions of this life are the products of actions in previous lives, the actions of those previous lives are the effects of actions in still more previous lives, and so on. Thus, trying to trace the causes of all our actions in all our past lives, we are bound to arrive at the time of the creation of the universe, when it sprang from the will of Krishna. We, as parts of the universe, sprang from that will too. Krishna's will before creation was, I am one and I wish to be the many, and his creation is the manifestation of his will's motion towards manifoldness, and karma is the law of the rhythmic steps of that motion. The will of Krishna, therefore, is the cause of all karma, the entire creation as well as of ours, because we are but parts of that creation. This makes it clear that since Krishna is the cause all karma of the universe, he is the actor of all actions. This being so, the cause of our sufferings from bondage to karma lies in our mistaken conception that we ourselves are the doer of our actions. This cannot be, because all our actions proceed from our past karma, the roots of which are embedded in the will of Krishna. It is Krishna that is the whole universe, as well as its laws and actions. It is Krishna that suffers and enjoys in so many shapes and forms, which make up his moving will, called nature. All our troubles are born of our usurping his place, the place of the real actor. Hence karma clings by natural law to whoever claims it. We claim the doership of actions which manifest themselves through us, but the real doer is the spring of primeval action, Krishna himself. This belief that we ourselves are the doers of our actions subjects our ego to their reactions. If by tracing the source of karma to Krishna we dispel this illusion from our mind and keep it ever out of it, so that it may not disturb our conviction of the fact that Krishna is the only doer, all our past and present karma, the stored up and the working, sanchit and prarabdha, will leave us of ourselves and go to Krishna to be absorbed by him, while for that same reason the karma seeds springing from our present actions will be rendered germless, like roasted seeds which never grow. But this belief needs constant practice of this thought in order to be sustained without interruption, and involves thinking of Krishna, absolute love and life, every minute. thoughts by which the thinker absorbs the essence of the purest spirituality, whose illumination ever guides him along the paths of truth and wisdom, and prompts him to actions whose results bring harmony and happiness to himself as well as to all with whom he comes in contact. This exposition of the truth of our utter irresponsibility of our actions will appear strange and mischievous only to unthinking minds. The fear that such a belief of irresponsibility may lead some people to bad actions is entirely groundless. Such a thing can never happen, for with such a belief firm in our mind, we have to think of God always in our daily actions, and this constant thinking induces concentration upon the deity, whose spirit is sure to prevent and counteract all our evil thoughts, not to speak of evil actions. A man who will do evil actions, taking advantage of this principle, will only deceive himself. Such evil doing can only show that he has no belief in the principle at all, but thinks of it only with a view to justify actions which lie in his heart, believes to be his own, but attributes to God to get rid of their responsibilities if possible. But if anyone believes firmly that God is the doer of all actions, and yet for want of proper culture of this belief, he is betrayed into evil actions, be sure his belief growing stronger will soon control his actions and lead him along the paths of the good and the pure. God consciousness destroys all evils of the mind to their very roots. Thus karma and its effects, which are for the ignorant, unthinking, and reckless human soul, are ever interminable, can by exercise of wisdom and mental power and discipline be absolutely done away with. Karma belongs to Krishna, and it is to Krishna that it and its fruits should be unreservedly dedicated good. The moment this mystery of karma is solved and the soul that solves it acts upon its lesson, then Krishna takes it into his arms, and the soul and its maker, now face to face, laugh together at this riddle of life, and in the laugh of ecstasy all sorrow and pain of the past are forgotten by that saved soul. Section 20. The Atom's Return Journey. It is absolute Krishna consciousness, or God consciousness, if you will, if that God is absolute love, that carries the atom from its man stage of development to its real home, Krishna, the abode of eternal love and bliss. Like all roads leading to Rome, all religious paths lead to that home. The primeval, the most natural, and the most scientific religion, called now the Hindu religion, has constructed 5 main roads for making the return journey easy, and the travelers can choose any of these roads according to their inclinations and the state of spiritual progress. One is the path of light and psychic force, called the path of the sun, because the sun is the presiding deity of the path. The second is the path of success, whose presiding deity is Ganapati, bestower of success. The third is the path of destruction of Tama, whose presiding deity is Shiva, the destroyer, one of the Hindu trinity, and the presiding deity of Tama, Shiva, who has subdued Tama and become its lord. The fourth is the path of divine energy, whose presiding deity is Durga, the motherhood of God and the universe, Prakriti, divine nature. The fifth is the path of spiritual devotion, whose presiding deity is Vishnu, Aniruddha, the presiding deity of Sattva, out of whose navel the universe has sprung, and who is the dispenser of moksha to the walkers of all the other paths. In this path is included another path, a path far superior to all the 5 paths, the path of absolute causeless love, which leads direct to Krishna, whose presiding deity is Krishna, the deity of all the deities. These different pathwalkers are called by the names of their respective deities of worship: Sara, Ganapatya, Shaiva, Shakta, worshippers of Shakti energy, and Vaishnavas, among whom are included Krishna worshippers. The sun is the medium of the physical manifestation of the divine light, the light of absolute intelligence, the coexistent attribute of absolute love. It is called the parent of the gross universe, the outer eye of the deity, the passage of the first sense of the divine mind, which produced forms. The devotee of the sun worships it as such, as the medium of the absolute deity, Krishna. Some of them concentrate their eyes upon the sun, immersed in water up to the neck, from sunrise to sunset. Others pray to it morning, noon, and evening, and contemplate its power. The sun is not blazing hot, as some modern people think. It is peopled by spiritual souls, who, by the merit of soul development, go from earth after death to dwell there for further development. These spiritual souls are spiritually governed by one who is most developed among them. He is called the Sun God, the representative of the sun. Sun worship leads finally to Krishna worship in some fully developed reincarnation. Ganapati, firstborn of Shiva. Shiva means wheel, destroyer of ill or evil. He is the presiding deity and bestower of success, material, moral, and spiritual, which is the chief factor of human wheel. Satisfied material success, virtuously earned, inspires the desire for moral development in well-ordered minds, and moral development in turn leads to spiritual enfoldment. By concentration on this central idea of success itself, the mind of the devotee of Ganapati absorbs its essence, the force of which guides his efforts to prosperity. Earthly prosperity enjoyed with discrimination impresses us with its hollowness, its failure to satisfy the inner craving of the mind, and points to the path of solid, all-satisfying permanent happiness. Shiva is the presiding deity of the wheel of creation, hence his name Shiva. He is the conqueror and destroyer of darkness, Tama. He helps his devotees to dispel the darkness of ignorance generated in their mind by its Tama attribute, and thus uncover its attribute of Sattva, by the illumination of which their souls reach the state of moksha, freedom from the bondage of matter, and finally merge in the divine essence whence it originally sprang. Durga is divine energy, the motherhood of creation. She is the sattvic force by which Shiva subdued Tama. Hence she is the consort of Shiva, the helpmeet of spiritual wheel. Without Durga, his Shakti energy, Shiva is inert. With his Shakti, he is alive and rules the universe. Shiva and his Shakti are inseparable as man and his mental energy, which alone he is inseparable. Man is moved by his mental energy, so Shiva is moved by his spiritual energy. Durga is the highest spiritual phase of Kali, conqueress of time and door of eternity. She is the spiritual force of nature, Prakriti. She is the mother of the universe. Her devotees, called Shaktas, Shakti worshippers, meditate on her as the great mother and pray to her for her grace, as a child talks to its mother and looks up to her for help, protection, and sustenance. When the most spiritual of her devotees develop the same natural love for and unshaken faith in her as those of an innocent child to its mother, they are blessed with her last grace. They are helped to moksha, or led into the path of Krishna, this last the greatest of all her gifts. She is Yoga Maya, energy of the highest spiritual concentration, holds the key of the gate of Goloka, Krishna's abode of love bliss. Vishnu is the sum total of all the deities, which are the manifestations of his powers and attributes. He is the parent of both the motherhood and fatherhood of the universe, the spring of creation itself. He is the presiding deity of Sattva, out of which are born Raja and Tama. He is the preserver, the sustaining power of the universe. He is the way to moksha. His essence is the abode of all salvation. He is the outer form of Krishna, the form through which Krishna manifests his will and becomes the many from the one. His abode, called Vaikuntha, the center of his all-pervading essence, is over this universe, over Brahma Loka, Brahma's abode. He is the last but one goal of all spiritual aspirations. He is the gate of Krishna, the last goal. The upward evolution of the atom from the man stage has to pass through many higher spiritual stages in higher and higher spheres. Interested spiritual culture, by which I mean spiritual culture with a view to enjoy the finest essence of sensuous happiness in spheres higher than the earth, never lifts a human soul beyond the bhuba and the swar, the abode of the gods. The bhuba sphere is just over the earth. It is the astral sphere. It is peopled by semi-celestial spirits and beings whose bodies are made mostly of ether, air, and fire, and the finest essence of water and earth. Hence they are invisible to our gross physical eye. They are so light that the ear to them is like firm land to us. They walk over it as we walk over earth. There are houses and roads in this sphere as on earth. as also in the swar sphere. Many psychical persons have now and then a glimpse of the Bhuba sphere and the dwellers therein. One of my students in New York, the truth of whose visions is known to many, has often seen these airy houses, roads, and beings. The swar is composed of finer material than the Bhuba, and its atmosphere is more sacred. Selfish spiritual culture is rewarded by a term of residence in the swar. When the term is over, the soul has to come down to earth again to be reborn as man. The soul which loves and cultivates unselfish spirituality for spirituality's sake, succeeds when it has no desire or sympathy any more for anything earthly, in skipping over the Bhuba and swar after death, and enters and becomes a dweller in the Mahar sphere. Such a soul seldom comes back to earth, but through higher development attains to the Brahmaloka, and there waits to be absorbed or immersed in Vishnu's essence till the time of the universal natural dissolution through which it reaches its goal. The worshippers of Vishnu pray for one of the 5 states of moksha, salvation, according to the preference of their inclinations. These 5 states of salvation are Sailokya, Sampiya, Sarupya, Sajujya, and Sharsti. Saloka is to dwell in the plain of Vishnu. Sampaya is to live near Vishnu as a servant. Sarupya is to live with Vishnu as his companion, having Vishnu's form and appearance. Sajujya is to remain immersed in Vishnu's essence. Sharshti is to possess even the powers of Vishnu. Those who attain to the first 3 states of salvation serve as messengers of Vishnu, and at times act as mediums of communication between Vishnu and the dwellers of the universe, while some of those who attain to the last 2 states come down to earth only from time to time as avatars, partial incarnations of Vishnu God. These have developed complete God consciousness, and after being immersed in the essence of Vishnu for eons together, they have been thoroughly Vishnuized. True, they were human beings before, but now they are parts of God himself. They have no more recollection of their former existences. Therefore, to call them any other than Vishnu is blasphemy. When the affairs of the earth are in chaos, and humanity in general needs spiritual uplifting, some of these immersed souls are detached, and they come down to our sphere, take birth, and walk among us, helping us by examples and teachings to right actions which lead to salvation. Section 21. Yoga. There are 5 processes of mental discipline by the aid of which the human soul can reach the goal quicker. These are called the 5 paths of yoga, viz. Hatha, karma, raja, gnana, and bhakti. Yoga means union. The word yoga is the original of its corrupted English form yoke. Yoga therefore means yoking the mind to the Spirit of God by concentration. Hatha yoga consists in cleaning and disciplining the outer and inner physical body by the practice of certain postures of sitting, processes of moving the muscles and fixing the eye upon some external object or the tip of the nose. These in time induce mental poise. Karma yoga is performing good actions and practicing spiritual formulas which contribute to the purification of the mind and finally lead to the unfoldment of the soul. Raja yoga is stopping the functions of the mind's volitions. By volitions of the mind are meant thought currents. By the practice of Raja Yoga, the outflow of these thought currents can be entirely stopped and turned inwards in one concentrated stream into the soul. The main process of shutting in the mind currents is by controlling the breath. The action of our breathing upon our mind is like that of the pendulum of a clock upon the movements of its hands. As for instance, the quicker the pendulum swings, the faster the movement of the hands, so the quicker our breathing, the more rapid the action of our thought currents. By controlling the breath by certain exercises prescribed by Raja Yoga, one can make his breathing slow and thereby diminish the speed of the thought currents. During these breathing exercises, the mind is concentrated upon God or the divine idea or some mystic words expressive of the deity. This lessens the activity of the mind, which then gradually experiences a calmness unfelt before, a calmness which in itself is a happiness which no form of enjoyment of material pleasure can afford. Calmness of mind develops into harmony, the result of the expression of the sattva attribute. There are 5 kinds of mental state: mura, kippa, vikipta, ekagra, and samadhi. The Murha, ruled by predominant Tama, is generally attracted to evil objects owing to lack of discrimination. Kipta flits from one object to another in search of pleasure. It is ruled by predominant Raja, so is ever active and never satisfied. The Bhikipta mental state, ruled by the equal combination of the three attributes, is generally like Kipta, but at times fixes its attention inward though for a short time only. When the Bhikipta is helped by the practice of concentration into the Ekagra, one-pointed state, then it is that harmony is brought about. When by constant practice the one-pointed mind becomes unwaveringly fixed on the deity, or the idea of the deity gained through the increasing illumination of the sattva, it enters into the samadhi trance state, the state of absolute absorption into the deity. The practice of the Raja Yoga has been forbidden in the Shastras in the Kali Yuga, Iron Age, because in this age, excepting in rare cases, the human body is too weak and delicate to stand the hardships, psychic exertions, and physical privations of its practices, and because an adept yogi guru, without whose constant help in every detail of it no student can attain the highest result, is very hard to be found. Many who now practice it under inexperienced gurus in India meet early death or develop incurable diseases or even turn insane. A moderate amount of simple breathing exercises may not be so injurious or fatal, but too much of it or the practice of the advanced rules ought never to be attempted, especially in the West, where a proper guru can never be found and where most people's nerves are generally shaky. Jnana Yoga is an entirely mental process of yoga, a process of discriminating between the unsubstantial and the substantial in nature and concentrating upon the only substantial essence of things and gradually getting absolutely absorbed by it. The keeping up of this process of thought in an unbroken stream requires living a life of simplicity, solitude, and renunciation. The life in which this thought current becomes unbroken is the last life, last incarnation of that soul. It escapes rebirth for good, for which it has worked for many incarnations. Its separate ego is merged in the universal ego and finally is lost in and becomes one with the one without a second. Jnana Yoga belongs to the school of the Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta is Veda and Anta, which means end, so that Vedanta means end of the Veda, the aim or goal of the Veda. And the word Veda is the original of the English word wisdom, Swedish wisdom from Sanskrit. Veda, to know. Veda means knowledge of the reality, the truth. The Vedanta aphorisms of Bhagavad are but indices to the principles of the Upanishads, the wisdom part of the Veda. There are two schools of Vedanta, the old and the new. The old possesses the true interpretation of the aphorisms. The new is deluded by their false interpretations, is only about 2,000 years old, and has a comparatively small number of adherents. The old school is founded on Parinambad. The new is founded on Vivartabad. The old school holds that the universe is composed of the ever-changeful manifestations of the will energy of the one changeless deity, Parinambad. The new calls the whole universe, in fact all that is visible and perceptible, Maya, illusion, in the sense that it never existed, does not exist now, and will never exist. All that exists is Brahm, the divine essence, and we are that. All else is illusion wrought in our mind through ignorance, just as the mistaking a piece of rope lying in some dark place for a snake is due to the illusion of the darkness. This theory, with this plausible analogy, is all wrong. The universe is not all illusion, though it is the changeful force materialization of the unchangeful one substance. The force or energy or light or reflection of a substance is inseparable from it and is pervaded by it and partakes of its spirit. This materialized force reflection of Brahm not only possesses its substance at bottom, but must be called a part of it, as the light of a flame or reflection of a light is undeniably its part. The analogy of the snake and rope is therefore not true of God and the universe. The snake is merely the conjuration of the darkness and not born of the rope, but the universe is born of Brahm, the rope. The theory that it is born of the illusion of our ignorance is absurd in that it involves accepting that ignorance to be something of self-existent, that it has an independent existence separate from the all in all, the one without a second. If not, whence is this ignorance which has such power of illusion over our mind and senses? What is it? Whence does it come? The Neo-Vedantist answers, it is something inexplicable. His Maya is inexplicable, the argument of one in darkness himself. This new Vedantic thought has done and is doing more harm to the world than any other religious theory. It is a worse delusion than the delusion of Maya. Section 22, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is concentration on the deity through devotion, the best and highest form of yoga, higher than all the other forms, as Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita. Devotion is the full fruition of spiritual concentration. A true devotee is the highest yogi, for he is filled with humility and sincere. Abject humility is the expression of the sublimest spiritual nature. It is a softened shadow, as the Lord says, that is cast by my love. Sincere humility springs from the clear realization of the presence of God in everything, that the whole universe is formed of the many forms of the one form and its radiance, and with that never-fading vision before the mind's eye, the devotee forgets himself and stoops low at the feet of every one and at everything he sees, for he sees in them all his deity. Bhakti is of two kinds, Gnan Bhakti and Prem Bhakti. Gnan Bhakti is devotion aided by culture of wisdom. Its deity is some incarnation of Vishnu, and its goal is the abode of Vishnu, or the essence of Vishnu. Prem Bhakti is devotion through love, causeless, disinterested love, love for love's sake, and its deity and goal is Krishna, absolute love. The path of Prem Bhakti lies within the path of Gnan Bhakti, but this path within the path is hedged and high to shut out the view and sound of the main path. The devotee of Prem Bhakti dedicates all his knowledge, wisdom, and actions to Krishna, the spring of all wisdom and actions, and praise Krishna for his love, the luxury of loving him for his dear sake. The Prem Bhakta wants nothing from his Lord, no boon, no blessing, material or celestial, not even salvation or mukti, nothing save the blessing of being filled with love for him. He prays to his Lord, O my Krishna, it matters not what betides my body, my life, or my earthly circumstances, or in what form of life I am reborn, even if it be that of a worm. Let my faith and love be fixed in thee, my beloved. Whatever is there in all existence compared with the luxury of loving thee? Thou art the sum total of the realization of all desires, of all happiness, thou the secret and object of all our longings. Such, in truth, is Krishna's attraction and more. He is the embodiment of the concentrated beauty and sweetness of all the universes. His eyes and face the focus of the love that fills all that is. Hence this Prem Bhakti path, which means the path of love's devotion, is called the path of beauty and sweetness. Beauty and sweetness are coexistent, are one and the same thing. Beauty is the expression of sweetness. Sweetness is the essence of beauty, and love is the parent of both. Krishna's form and symmetry are all ideals, unapproachable, inconceivable, unimaginable ideal. The newest rain-cloud color of his complexion is the color of the condensed ether of ether. Love, his crown and crest of peacock feathers, his raiment of molten gold, the color of attraction, his long garland and ornaments of wildflowers, his jewel kaustubha on his breast, and his bamboo flute were all proud contributions of nature to her supreme Lord. If we can imagine the essence of the purest of pure love condensed into a substance as thick as flesh and molded into form, we can then have some idea of the material of Krishna's body, whether in glory or on earth. It is a form which, the moment you produce some likeness of it in imagination, thrills you with ecstasy, for it is ecstasy condensed. Krishna is best worshipped with the heart. Prayers and incantations and offerings without sincere feeling do not reach him. He responds to the call of love alone. Call him from the innermost depth of your heart with pure love, love unmixed with motive, with sincere, artless love of a fond baby for its mother, and he will appear to you and do whatever you want him to do. Krishna is your veriest own, nearer to you than your nearest relative, your only true friend in life and eternity. He is dearer, more precious than your body or your life or your heart, for he is your soul, and soul is dearer and more precious than body, life, or heart. It is him you have been searching in all your searchings in life, in lives you have lived before, and him will you search in lives that are to come after this life. He is ever with you, he is within you, but you are searching for him outside of you. Whence you miss him, hence you run after all the will-o'-the-wisp of life, thinking these will give you the joy which your only beloved and lover alone can give. No wonder you are deceived, depressed, unsatisfied. The reward of chasing the shadow of the substance that lies within you, the reward of chasing the rainbow, which is but the reflection of the sun of your soul's sky. The devotee of Krishna meditates on Krishna, regarding him in one of the 4 human relationships, whichever suits his natural inclination best, viz. Dasya, or the relationship of a servant to his master, Sakya, or the relationship of the friend to his friend, Vatsalya, or the relationship of a son to his parents, or parents to a son, and Madhur, or the relationship of a wife to her husband, or of a loving woman to her lover. These 4 kinds of devotional feelings are natural in man. By natural I mean born from nature, of which man is the best earthly product. But wherefrom has nature derived them? From her parent source, Krishna, of course. So these feelings are present in their absolute perfection in Krishna, the source of all life. Flowing from Krishna into his creation, they constitute the cords of attachment between man and man, the natural bonds of union between soul and soul, the natural channels of communication between man and his maker. They are the invisible wires of telegraphy between the central soul and its branch souls, between the parent soul and its offsprings. If the instruments of the branch offices are rusty and out of order, they cannot transmit their messages to the main office or receive messages therefrom. The moment they are cleaned, repaired, and put into working order, they are open to perfect communication once more. The devotee of Krishna cleans the rusty and disordered instrument of his heart by cultivating one of these feelings of devotion for Krishna, and the moment this feeling attains its natural state, the moment it becomes absolutely sincere, then he absorbs and is filled with absolute love from its primeval spring. Krishna is absolutely divine and absolutely human, for it is perfect humanity that is perfect divinity. Krishna is love itself, the love that destroys all distance, love that draws the lover and the loved closest to each other. It knows no ceremony, knows no form of respect, it knows no motive. Love is its own cause, motive, and satisfaction. Divinity demands our reverence and inspires us with awe. Despite its strong attraction, we can but adore it from a distance. We cannot approach it too near, but love draws us to its bosom and holds us close. Love is a master and love is a slave. It knows no barrier, sees no faults, nay, sees virtues and faults. It responds to its own clear call, or vibrates to the voice of its own inspiration, and blesses its own creation with greater gifts of its own wealth. Whichever of the 4 devotional feelings towards Krishna the Bhakta devotee cultivates, it must reach the stage of unalloyed sincerity to be rewarded by its blissful realization. The loving servant of Krishna must love his service above all. He loves and holds dear. The devotee who wants to be the friend and companion of Krishna must have his all-forgetting love of Krishna pervaded by an uninterrupted sense of equality with him. He may serve him as a slave, but it is the service of a friend who is more than a slave to his friend. The devotee who wants to love Krishna as a father or mother must have unwavering sincerity of such paternal love and affection. He or she must always consider himself or herself superior to Krishna, whom they must regard as a helpless child in their charge. This true parental feeling is pervaded by the unconscious spirit of spontaneous service and friendship, for no friendship and service can be compared with those of parents. The same rules apply to the cultivation of the feeling of devotion to Krishna. The 4th, the feeling of a loving wife to her Lord, sums up the essence of all the foregoing 3 feelings. It is the highest and tenderest feeling of devotion. The true wife is the servant, friend, mother, and lover of her husband. She is his slave, equal and superior by virtue of her all-surrendering love. Every form of pure love is self-surrender. The love that knows no surrender or sacrifice is a mockery. It mocks itself more than its object, for sacrifice is its chief test and best expression. Love that only loves, if loved, is pure selfishness. It is self-deception. But the love that loves for its own sake and is the fullest satisfaction in itself, the love that loves whoever or whatever its object loves, is the love absolute that Krishna is. The human soul that develops it binds Krishna thereby, and holds him its prisoner for good. When that love develops the tenderness of a loving wife, it captivates the heart of hearts and entrances the soul of souls, Krishna. These Vaishnava forms of devotion reach their highest degree of development and receive their greatest impetus on the appearance of the Sri Chaitanya, the fullest incarnation of Krishna, who was born in Nudia on the Ganges, Bengal, a little over 400 years ago, and flourished for nearly half a century. He was Krishna himself incarnated in the form of his greatest devotee. Krishna is the mystery and the Chaitanya It is its explanation. Whenever Krishna comes to earth as the mystery of love in the junction period of Dwapar and Kali, he comes again in the form of Chaitanya as the explanation of that mystery 5,000 years after, to show to mankind the way to himself for examples. Chaitanya's love, devotion, and spirituality will ever remain unparalleled. He preached Krishna, the seed and soul of love absolute, and while preaching he would burst forth into song in praise of Krishna. Thus singing, he would be filled with ecstasy, and in its fullness he would be moved into the most graceful dance the world has ever seen, now shouting the name of his Lord, and anon weeping for his Lord's grace, his arms and whole body waving and quivering with the heaving billows of his heart's love ocean, streams of which, like water from many fountains, would flow from his eyes in the shape of tears, and in those tears streaming straight from his eyes to the ground, all those who, catching his spirit, caught also his ecstatic motion, would be literally bathed, and all India was flooded, as the authoritative records of his apostles tell us, with Chaitanya's divine love, and millions of sinners that felt it were borne away by its tide. Sri Chaitanya preached and proved the potency of Krishna's name, that his name is the Lord himself. If anybody says Krishna, Krishna, mentally or loudly, and concentrates his mind on it, he is bound to absorb its love nectar, be drunk with its ecstasy, see Krishna in form and in everything, and finally go to Golaka after passing out of this life. Hari is the popular name of Krishna. It means he who steals our sins. Chaitanya would shout Hari Hari or Hari Bol, say Hari, and vibrations of that name would thrill through all hairs and change them into pious devotees. Millions upon millions were thus saved by him. Millions of sinners turned into saints. The world has never seen such an avatar, the incarnation of all love, Krishna. He lived the most blameless life from childhood to his disappearance at the age of 48. Like master, like servants, his apostles were of such spiritual purity and sublimity that it would be hard to find one like them even in India of the past. Any of them was competent to save the whole world, a whole world. They have left thousands of books on Krishna and Chaitanya's life and teachings, which are of the utmost value to the students and adherents of all religions, of all climes, ages, and denominations. Love is the theme of every book, and it is difficult to resist its essence pouring into you as you read them. If my life is spared by the Lord, and if my Krishna wills it, I may present the life story and teachings of Sri Chaitanya and his apostles to the Western reader in a short time. In that book, a detailed exposition of the Vaishnava religion will be given, an exposition which may interest Christians. The present book is but the preliminary part of the Chaitanya book I intend to write, for Chaitanya cannot be understood without first understanding Krishna and his leela on earth. Chaitanya may be called the Indian Christ, but a Christ like the like of whom has never appeared on earth. Chaitanya did not even leave his body behind. When he left this earth, he entered one morning into the temple of Jagannath and disappeared. Nobody knows how or where. End of section 22. Sections 23 and 24 of Sree Krishna, the Lord of Love, by Baba Premanand Bharati. Section 23. Vaishnav, Christian of Christians. The Krishna worshipper is either a householder or a hermit. He is either a devotee who cultivates the love for Krishna amid the duties and distractions of the world, or a devotee who leaves the temptations and turmoil of the world and sojourns in some sylvan retreat in the holy forest of Vrindavan, the earthly abode of Krishna, or in the outskirts of a town or village within a humble monastery composed of a couple of huts with a little flower garden fenced around. But the most advanced Krishna hermit tarries nowhere longer than a few days, but ever roams about in the land sanctified by the touch of the lotus feet of his Lord. The formula of worship and religious rules of life practiced by both the hermit and householder are practically the same. It consists of mental and physical practices, more mental than physical, The moment the householder awakes from his sleep in the morning, he utters the name of Krishna thus: Krishna, 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 Krishna. O Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 nourish me. Krishna, 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 protect me. I salute thee, O Krishna, give thou me thy love. Then before he leaves his bed and puts his foot upon the earth, he prays and salutes Mother Earth thus: O thou ocean-girdled, mountain-breasted goddess, I salute thee. O thou consort of Vishnu, forgive me thy suckling. O Mother, this my touching thee with my feet. Then, after answering the calls of nature, and after rubbing his hands and feet with pure earth, and washing them for many times, he takes a full bath, either in the Ganges or in any river if it is nearby. If not, he bathes in a pond, or at a well, or at home with 2 or 3 large jarfuls of water. While bathing, he utters many a hymn and prayer to Krishna. After the bath, he wears a piece of dry cotton cloth which has been washed in clean water, or a piece of pure silk cloth. He then goes to a flower garden and calls some scented white flowers for Krishna, whom he then sits to worship in his sacred room. He mentally repeats for 108 times the mantram he has received from his guru, counting it on his fingers. Then he takes a few tiny leaves of the sacred tulsi plant, smears them in sandalwood paste, and closing his eyes, mentally offers them with the sacred white flowers to the lotus feet of his deity upon whom his mind is concentrated. This concentration is helped from outside by the spiritual vibrations of his sacred room and the inspiring effect of the perfume of the incense, the sandal paste, and the flowers. He then chants long prayers and hymns in Sanskrit to Krishna and his love energy, Radha, and to all the saints and great devotees of Krishna of the past, begging them for their blessings of Krishna's grace. He then sings songs of the Lord's love, and tears of ecstasy roll down his cheeks as he sings in the abandon of his devotion to the accompaniment of a pair of small cymbals he keeps striking to keep time. The mantram is composed of 3, 4, or 5 Sanskrit words, beginning with what is called the seed word, with the name of Krishna, and a dedicatory word attached to it. The seed word is the seed of Krishna love. It awakens in the heart spiritual passion. This seed word, if mentally repeated with intense concentration, bursts open the shell of the sound form of Krishna, his name, which contains the nectar of absolute love. The word Sanskrit means pure, refined. The Sanskrit language is the language of the pure, undefiled voice of nature. Hence it is called the language of the gods, who are representatives of nature's attributes. These attributes are blendings of forces. Each force has a name, sound, a form, and a quality. A man in intense pain expresses it in such sounds as oh, ah, ah. This oh, or ah may be called the sound voice of pain. The contortions of the face, the expression of his form, and the feeling it produces is its quality. The quality is the substance of the force called pain, and its sound and sign form are its expressions. If there were a microscope powerful enough to reveal to our view the figures which sound vibrations create on ether, we would then find that the above-mentioned sound expressions of pain recreate forms in ether much like the combined letters oh and ah. This means that it is from the impressions of sound vibrations on ether that characters of all languages have been formed, the pictures reflecting themselves on the inventor's mind through the medium of its subtle force called inspiration. The characters, Sanskrit charitra, of the Sanskrit language, the parent language of all languages, are born with creation. They are entities in nature, form expressions of her forces. They are eternal and indestructible, askshara, as characters are called. The vowels are masculine forces, the consonants are feminine forces. The masculine characters, vowels, are independent, the feminine characters, consonants, are dependent. The vowels can be pronounced by themselves. The consonants can only be pronounced when united with the vowels. The vowels are the expressions of the essence of the deity, Krishna. The consonants are the expressions of the will force of the deity, Prakriti, that which procreates. Nature. Nature is born of sound, the attribute of ether, Akas, which was the first manifestation of creation. That first sound was misspelled and mispronounced in English as the vowel A, pronounced A in Sanskrit. The initial letter of Om is the parent of all letters and languages. This Om in sound represents the distant vibrations of Krishna's flute, the music of love, while its character form in Sanskrit resembles the form of Krishna playing on his flute, as the reader will see from the little outline picture of Krishna with its background of Om in Sanskrit character printed on the title page of this book. This is the mystery of what Krishna himself says in the Gita, I am the word Om. The different combinations of the other Sanskrit characters, forms of natural forces, called words, represent similarly pictures of sound forms of different attributes and objects. Sanskrit words, in fact, are sound shells which hold within them essences of the attributes they represent and the objects they signify. The letters K, R, I, S, H, N, A joined together form the word Krishna, which is the sound shell of the essence of love, nature's absolute attribute produced by the fusion of the forces of which the composing characters are sound forms. When frequently repeated together with the love passion seed word, its vibrations, after purifying the atmosphere of the mind, illumine in time its inner chamber, the heart, which is the door of the soul, and fills it with the ecstasy of bliss. The tulsi plant is the most spiritual plant in the world. Hence, its leaf is the best medium for conveying prayers, especially when it is smeared with sandalwood paste, the perfume of which is much like the aroma of the Lord's body. But this morning worship is not all that the householder Vaishnava performs to attain to the love of Krishna. He eats or drinks nothing without first offering it through some mystic formula to Krishna, and his food is pure vegetables, his drink is pure water. In the evening he joins other Vaishnavas to talk of Krishna, hear of the sacred earthly acts of Krishna, sing of Krishna, and when the spirit of song moves him, he dances with others in ecstasy. Besides these practices, he repeats many thousand times the name of Krishna over his Tulsi rosary. In fact, he never misses any means or opportunity to keep alive an unbroken Krishna consciousness, the result of which is that he enjoys the joy of Goloka here on earth in this earthly body. He is rewarded with the foretaste of what he seeks to enjoy after he lays down his physical body. This is enjoyed by the hermit Vaishnav, who generally lives in Vrindavan in a higher degree. He is unhampered by all the disturbances and difficulties of the householder, and so he devotes every moment he breathes to the service of his Krishna. He has renounced the world and with it all its thoughts. From the earliest morning up to very late at night, he prays, chants, talks, hears, reads, sings, and dances by turns. He eats but once, and that very little, a few wee bits of unleavened bread begged from pious homes. His only world's goods are the scanty clothes on his body, his earth and water bowl, and his volume of scriptures. He has made peace with the whole world by his humility. He has nothing but blessings for all. sincere blessings, even in return for curses, and prostrates at full length, prone to the ground before everyone. He follows the saying of the Lord Chaitanya that a Vaishnav should be lowlier than a blade of grass, more forbearing and charitable than a tree, which spreads its shade and offers its fruits even to one who cuts down its branches, should never seek respect for himself, but pay respect even to those who are respected by none, that a Vaishnav should at all times sing of Krishna. Thousands upon thousands of such Vaishnavs, both male and female, can be found today in the holy land of Vrindavan and the holy city of Nudia, the birthplace of Chaitanya, whose Christ-like spirit and ecstatic life are unparalleled in the religious history of any other country, ancient or modern. They represent demonstrated living proofs of the power of the Lord's name upon the human mind. Section 24. Krishna Leela. This Krishna, the Lord of absolute love, the seed and soul of the universe, comes down to this earth to serve and inspire men with his love once in every manvantara, once in every 71 divine cycles, that is, once in every 300 million of our lunar years or more. Every universe of his countless universes likewise has its turn of being blessed by his visit as an incarnation once in a long period. This universe of ours is the smallest of these universes, and its turn of Krishna's incarnation comes off during the junction period of the copper and iron ages of the 28th divine cycle of every manvantara. This being the iron age of the 28th divine cycle of this manvantara, the Lord blessed this earth with his personal presence 5,000 years ago, his birth taking place within the appointed junction period. Avatars that come to earth to save mankind and protect the good from the bad, the Srimad Bhagavad says, are innumerable. They are either partial manifestations or aspects of Vishnu, but Krishna is Lord God, Bhagavan himself, the supreme deity of whom Vishnu himself is the fourth manifestation. Nobody knows exactly when Krishna will come, for even Brahma, the operating creator, knows it not. Brahma only sees him for a second once in a long while, flashing through his meditation like a lightning flash. When Krishna came this last time on earth with this second manifestation, Sankarsana, who was born as his elder brother Balaram, the time was ripe for an incarnation of Vishnu, but as the moon and stars are covered by the effulgence of the sun, the avatar of Vishnu could not appear separately, so he was merged in Krishna. The part was swallowed by the whole. The story of the earthly career of Krishna given in the second part of this book is the story of the all-love Krishna of Braya. This all-love Krishna was the Krishna of Vrindavan, also called Braha, the land where he played and roamed, where he went through his earthly career up to the age of 11, when he left Vrindavan for Mathura. The Krishna of Vrindavan is the fullest manifestation of Krishna, the fullest expression of his all-love self. Hence the Krishna of Vrindavan is called the fullest incarnation, which means all Krishna, the Krishna of all love. The Krishna of Mathura is called fuller Krishna, which means 3/4 Krishna and 1/4 Vishnu. And the Krishna of Dwaraka, half Krishna and half Vishnu, is called full incarnation of Krishna. Krishna being all love, he knows nothing but love, gives and accepts nothing but love, acts nothing but love, breathes nothing but love, speaks nothing but love. The asuras that he killed were not killed by him, but by the incarnation of Vishnu, which was within him, and his part in those actions was to send the souls of those asuras to his absolute love realm, a reward reserved for his highest lovers and devotees, a kindness for enemies which Krishna alone can feel and show. Krishna has no power even to hurt a fly, for he is nothing but love itself, and does not know anything else but love. This much can be said about Krishna's participation in these what seem to be acts of killing, that the powers of Vishnu within him that committed them found his body the most perfect medium for their operations. One word of explanation is necessary here as to who the asuras were and how they could assume such shapes. These mentions of asuras and demons in the Hindu book prejudice the unknowing and unthinking. Western minds against the veracity of Hindu historians, and inclined them to think that ancient Hindu history are mixed with myths and fables. A little calm and intelligent thinking ought to correct the mistakes of such hasty judgment. Modern science, too, is daily paving the way to belief in things which even a quarter of a century ago were thought absurd and impossible. Science is proving the fact of the unlimited potentialities of the human mind. Mind force is at present the subject of all the most advanced Western scientists and philosophers. When these will succeed in discovering the laws and truths of the mental plane, as they are now doing of the material plane, no facts of Hindu history or of the histories of ancient times will strike modern man as mythical or absurd. The Asuras were the psychics of the ancient times. They cultivated their mind force in order to use it for personal aggrandizement. They were yogis, but their yoga was divorced from pure spirituality because their object was not spiritual. All they wanted was power, by which to overpower others and keep them under subjection for their own earthly benefit. Some of them were exceptions to the rule. They cultivated their sattvic powers to some extent along with the development of rajasic powers. These became great heroes in battles, and some of them made very good kings. Others developed merely rajasic and tamasic powers of the mind and became tyrants and oppressors of all good people. Wherever and whenever the earth groaned under the burden of their sins, partial incarnations of Vishnu came down to earth to destroy them and bring peace and goodwill among mankind once more. But those Asuras who had only their tamasic dark mind force developed were the lowest of them all. Their minds were all dark and their deeds were all black. Their natural inclination was to do mischief to people for the sake of the mischief itself. These were called demons. These demons can be found reborn among us all in the most advanced centers of civilization, but they are now shorn of their former psychic force. The mind's natural inclination, however, is still in them. They take no external means to satisfy this inclination of killing or hurting or doing mischief for the sake of the act itself. Formerly their dark mental powers were their most potent weapons. Through these psychic powers they could transform themselves into any shape they concentrated upon, and if they failed to assume the form of a saint or god, it was because they could not grasp the idea of the personality of such pure souls with their impure minds. To assume the form of a beast was the easiest thing for them, because they were nothing but human beasts in their nature. They could also assume elemental forms too, such as a whirlwind, etc., as in Krishna Leela. The modern Asuras cannot do any such thing because their mind forces are scattered and distracted. The chief cause why people generally cannot be a high yogi or a black psychic demon is the density of raja and tama that at present pervades nature, of which all beings are parts, and products which disturbs concentration. The holding of the hill on the point of the little finger of the left hand, as Krishna did, was not a very great deed for Krishna to perform. This act can be performed by some of the lords of yoga. The yogi, when he becomes an adept, inherits the partial attainment of the 8 great powers, siddhis, which are in their fully normal states in Vishnu, and in lesser degree in those who remain merged in the essence of Vishnu and are sent therefrom to earth to serve mankind as avatars. These powers are 1. Anima, the power of becoming as small as an atom; 2. Mahima, the power of becoming increased in size; 3. Lagima, the power of becoming as light as desired; 4. Prapti, to possess the power of the gods who are the presiding deities of the senses; 5. Prakamya, the power of enjoying and sensing all objects seen or unseen; 6. Ashita, or power over the forces of the divine will and over the lower forces of other beings; 7. Vasita, non-attachment to objects; and 8. Kamavasayata, the power of attaining all desires. Besides these, the Thai yogi may attain to 10 other powers of the cardinal attributes: 1. Cessation of hunger and thirst; 2. Hearing from a distance; 3. Seeing from a distance; 4. Moving the body with the speed of the mind; 5. Assuming any form at will; 6. Entering into any other body; 7. Dying at will; 8. Playing with celestial damsels; 9. Attaining wished-for objects; 10. Power of irresistible command. 5 other minor powers are: 1. Knowledge of the present, the past, and the future; 2. Control over the opposites, such as heat and cold, joy and sorrow, etc.; 3. Knowledge of another's mind; 4. Suspending the action of fire, sun, water, poison, etc. 5. Invincibility. These powers serve the Lord in his leelas as humble slaves, whether he is conscious of them or not. Leela means action of God incarnate. The rash dance with the gopis is the greatest leela of Krishna. It was the manifestation of the greatest might of his love, the might possessed by the Supreme Being alone, by the Lord of the Lords of Yoga, by the supreme source of Yoga itself. Gopi means a milkmaid, but the milkmaids of Braya were extraordinarily spiritual beings born as milkmaids to serve the Lord in his earthly leela. The chief of the gopis is Radha, the consort of Krishna in glory and on earth. Radha means adoration or love devotion. Radha is the embodied manifestation of Krishna's love principle, the energy of his soul, the principle in Krishna which sets his love into motion. Radha is inside of Krishna as the principle of love energy, and she is outside of Krishna as the embodiment of that principle. Radha is the first active principle of nature, the active love principle which unconsciously gives birth to creation and pervades it as the purest spiritual energy. Like Krishna, she is above and out of the reach of the creative cardinal attributes. Krishna is the soul, Radha is the heart soul, and her 8 chief companions are the 8 chief devotional aspects, and the other gopis, the inclinations and minor attributes of her ensouled mind. Radha and her chief companions are Krishna's constant companions in Goloka. They came with him from glory and were born as gopis in Vrindavan. Other gopis who were in the rash dance were incarnations of Vedic hymns and truths which, as I have ere now explained in the cases of nature's attributes and forces, are entities in nature, the form centers of nature's purest sentiments and conceptions. Other gopis were incarnations of goddesses, the presiding deities of nature's spiritual forces and attributes, while others were incarnations of some of the highest illuminated male saints, rishis who had prayed for ages and ages in every birth to serve the Lord personally with the tender devotion of a loving woman. The love of these gopis for Krishna was absolutely selfless. They loved him for the sake of the spontaneous, causeless love they felt for him, and which his personality inspired in them, for Krishna was that causeless love itself. The rash dance represented the vibrations of the soul-absorbed mind, vibrations which filled the universe with the nectar of bliss and destroyed its karma of a whole kalpa, the karma which formed its prarabdha for the time. Krishna danced separately with each gopi. Each gopi had her own Krishna beside her. One Krishna became as many as there were gopis, and yet it was the selfsame Krishna. The one soul played like so many souls, with so many hearts, and yet the hearts saw but that one soul. Each gopi saw only her own Krishna, and was unconscious of any other as she danced, absorbed in that Krishna round and round, arms round necks, eyes into eyes, all forgetting the world forgot, round and round in the whirl of ecstasy, afloat on the waves of love that is bliss, round and round with that one Krishna, the all in all of the heart and existence, round and round, the lover and the loved, the little soul twining round the great soul pouring its nectar into the little soul. Ignorant writers and prudish religionists of the West have dared to call this Gopi Leela of Krishna shocking to all religious sense, in the face of the fact that 200 and odd millions of Hindus of the present day and myriads of millions of Hindus of the past, Hindus whose giant intellect and all-towering height of spirituality the world of today are beginning to wonder at, call this Leela the most transcendental of all divine deeds that have ever been performed on the face of the globe. According to these little critics of the greatest avatar of the Supreme Deity, that Supreme Deity cannot possess any other sentiments of love than those of a father and a savior, that God ought not to feel or show the love of a husband for his wife or of a lover for his lady love. If this be a fact, will they answer the question as to whence has man got these sentiments, if not from his Maker, of whom he is but an imperfect image? Whence has he got them, if not from the source of creation itself, of which he is such a tiny part and product? This denial to God of the possession of a lover's sentiment implies an impertinence which God alone, out of his infinite affection for his creatures, can pardon. It only betrays the dense ignorance of these critics in regard to the origin and laws of creation, and of the relations of creation with its creator. Nature, creation, is the materialized will force of God. The will force of God is a reflection of God himself, the objectified phases of the semblance of manifoldness of the Absolute One. God is the husband and the energy of his will. Nature is his wife. God is the lover, and nature is his loving lady love. By his all-pervading essence, the only support and sustenance of nature, he clasps his lady love to his bosom, and dances with her to the intricate steps of the music of her laws. This is his rash dance in the aggregate, the rash dance that is being performed every moment within nature, though hidden from our outlooking physical vision. What is true of the great universe is true also of its miniature man. Within our heart of hearts is the forest of Vrindavan, in which the microscopic blue river of love, Jamna, flows, lapping with thrills of joy the bank of the bowery lawn, where Krishna, our soul, with his gopis, our ensouled mental aspirations, is performing his ever-favorite, never-ending rash dance, and we are unconscious of it all because our mind's outer ken is employed outside of us with outer objects. If we can withdraw the mind's vision from outwards and direct it into the depth of our heart, then will belief come in the rash dance of Krishna with its practical realization. We are then of Raya, and each of us of the enlightened inner eye, a dancing gopi, male or female, whatever we may be externally, it matters not. We are all gopis, human male or human female. We are all spiritually feminine, for Krishna alone is the one male, and we all particles of nature are all female. We are all the lady loves, the brides and wives of our one husband, lover, and beloved Krishna. In the working out of the ever-beneficial laws of inner nature, the laws that throb for the weal of mankind, this innermost performance of nature's constant rash dance, where the Lord is reflected for a time upon her outer surface to fill outer nature and mankind with the ecstasy of its supremest spirituality, the blessings of absolute love. The 12 chief boy companions of Krishna in Vrindavan came with him from glory, where they are his constant companions, while the other cowboys were the incarnations of the gods and highly spiritual saints. The Kadamba tree, under which Krishna usually played his flute, is a representation in physical form of the tree of life, and the flute's dear strains of the music of the soul. As Krishna and his companions are constant, so are his leelas, acts constant that can be seen now by any devotee possessed of the requisite vision. With these words, I humbly introduce the reader to the nectar career of Krishna on earth embodied in the following pages. Let every reader read it with an open mind, and the nectar is sure to flow into his soul through that mind. End of section 24. Proem and chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Sree Krishna, the Lord of Love, Part 2, by Baba Premanand Bharati. Proem. I bow to the glorious one, the unerring mariner who has guided my frail life's bark across the billowy world ocean, wrapped in goo, the darkness of ignorance, with the ever-illuminating rue, the searchlight of wisdom, to the land of the lotus feet of Krishna. I bow to Sri Brahmananda Bharati, my guru. And now hush, I list, I sing of Krishna, I will sing of Krishna, the Lord of love, the seed and soul of the universe, the ultimate principle in the composition of creation, of all souls, real home, sweet, sweet home. I will sing of your only lover and your only beloved. I wish to sing a song whose sweetness will thrill through your body, which will make your soul float in ecstasy. I will sing a song whose burden will enter your heart as a dewdrop enters the bosom of a flower, but will soon, if you are attentive, spread itself into a boundless ocean on which your heart will be tossed over its gentle waves, like a boat bound for and sure of the land of eternal bliss. I as earnestly ask your blessing, that I may be filled with such power to sing such a song, as I ask the blessing of my Krishna to sing of him to you. I will sing a song of love such as you have never heard, such as poets dream not of, which lovers know not of, which the human soul is ever in quest of, which in your best moments vibrates undefined through your soul, but ever eludes your understanding. I will sing of that love which ever plays before your heart's vision as the will-o'-the-wisp through countless incarnations, a love which alone will make you happy for evermore. I will sing a song to you of a love which you are striving every moment of your life to realize through success and failure in this life's games, the love whose worthless counterfeits dazzle and deceive you at every step removing you farther and farther from the original they so poorly resemble. I will sing to you of the love absolute, the love that is unbroken, the love that is fed and grows by use, the love that blesses the lover with greater abundance for giving it away to others. I will sing to you of a love which is your birthright, which is the very foundation of your existence, which alone is the substance of all existences and wonder of wonders, a love which is your real food and home. Ay, and it is of your home that I will sing, the unknown pole to which the magnet of your soul eternally trembles. Home is ever sweet, home, sweet home, but this your sweet earthly home is only the home of your earthly self, the brick-and-mortar closet of your fleshly coats, of which you have possessed a countless number, but all those coats have been mere coverings of your inner self, which is a truant from its own home, but of which destination has lost all memory, having lived so long in others' homes. I will sing to you of a song whose burden will remind you of this lost and forgotten home, the home that you are seeking in vain, consciously or unconsciously, the home whose never-failing happiness you are trying to substitute in your borrowed home by ever-failing pleasures which only pain you by their hollowness. How can you live upon a hollow happiness, you who have known and tasted solid eternal happiness in your real home, the home where light fades not, life grieves not, and happiness ever is? I will sing to you of the home where your master, friend, father, and lover is ever anxious to get you back and take you to his bosom. I will sing to you of Krishna, your home, the seed and soul of your soul as well as of the universe in which you are a miniature. And now, my beloved friend, prepare yourself to listen to this song which comes to you from across the oceans, from a land where the altar of the Lord of Love is ever burning, fed by the libations of devotion and the incense of ecstasy since the dawn of creation, from that cradle of religion and civilization, from that spiritual metropolis of the spiritual world empire, where the fountain of divine love, life, and wisdom is still playing to water the earth with the blessings of the soul, the land of Bharat, which you moderns call India. Listen and be blessed. This is a song not set to any tune you know, to any music you have heard, and yet it is a song which is set in the true tune of your heart, to the natural music of your soul. It is the song ecstatic of your heart soul, which will make the core of your being throb in beatitude and melt the crusts of materiality in you into the love unspeakable. Listen and be blessed. Chapter 1. Weary and overburdened with its load of sorrow and weakness, the great heart of Mother Earth lifted her voice unto the heights of the skies, complaining. Her patience and faithfulness were qualities of wondrous worth to Brahma, the Creator. Brahma is the creator of the details of the universe. The Supreme Creator is the Supreme Deity, Krishna. He creates by his will the in-equilibrium of the three cardinal attributes, sattva, raja, tama, or illumination, activity, and obscuration, embodies the creative will of Krishna, as explained in the foregoing part of this book. This in-equilibrium starts the current and force of creation, Vasudeva, as the manifestation and center of the first flush of creation, springing from Krishna as a result of this loss of poise, is the second creator in whom the seed of creation, unpoised of attributes, dwells as an unknown feeling of differentiation. Sankarsana, who springs from Vasudeva, is the third creator, but acts only as the unconscious cause of creation. Pradyumna, who springs from Sankarsana, carrying the abstract idea of creation, is the fourth creator, the semi-conscious cause of creation. Aniruddha, born of Pradyumna, as the full conscious cause, is the fifth creator. This Aniruddha is called Narayan, and Vishnu. From him springs Brahma, the first sprout of creation. He is the sixth and the operating creator, called in the Hindu books the father of creation. the grandfather of all God's creatures. Brahma's abode is the Brahmaloka, otherwise called the Satyaloka, or the seventh heaven, the seventh from the earth's sphere. First heaven, just over the Brahmaloka, is the Vaikuntha Loka, the abode of Vishnu, the abode of salvation, bhakti, where souls free from the last bondage of matter and its influence go for rest and reward. This abode of Vishnu is unapproachable even by the gods and the illumined souls who dwell on the earth or in the four upper heavens. Brahma alone, by mediation, can communicate with Vishnu on any subject bearing on the welfare of creation and receive a response from him, who is the outward form of Krishna. And so, drawing aside the curtain from his abode, he looked into her soft and wearied eyes, saying, O Mother Earth, long hath the pain of ingratitude and faithlessness pierced thy tender heart, and with courage and loving mercy hast thou borne its stings. But now a balm is to come unto thee, and soothe thy wounded love, and readjust those things of which thou dost complain. Yet a little while, O thou goddess of plenty, and one shall play upon thy breast, which will make the veins of thy body to thrill with warm love, so that thy heart will be beautiful beyond what it yet has been. Thy mountains shall laugh in great happiness on seeing the beauty of him who shall cast his lotus eyes upon their rugged sides. Thy rivers shall flow in rhapsodies when his sweet body shall sanctify their waves by its contact. Thy hovers shall come forth in great plentifulness. Thy cows shall give forth milk that shall be nourishing and healing unto all whom it will feed. Thy trees shall cast forth shadows that all who come under their cooling shade, sick unto death, shall bound forth with the gladness of life and love in their bodies. And, O patient earth, all who tread upon thee shall call thee blessed, because the one all-beautiful shall have made thee blessed by his holy feet treading upon thee. Thus spake Brahma unto Mother Earth, who lowly laid again her dark head, and entering the abode of Vishnu, he said unto him, Thou mighty one, well dost thou know the grievance of her, the patient one, who is dear unto us. Do thou in thy glory and majesty succor her, O Lord. Let the only one, the Lord of love, the sovereign of all the universe, the author of all that lives, again be born upon her surface, and so bring to her wilted breast the nectar of love, that all who draw from her may again partake freshly of the love that is the life of all animate and inanimate. This thou do, O wondrous and most beautiful one, and quicken again with love her heart, and the hearts that beat against her breast, so that the eyes of those who have eyes yet see not may see. Do thou incarnate with thyself those who have ever walked with thee, and who may, even before the eyes of all, perform and live miracles of love. For, O Most High, full of stolid unbelief and fettered with the world, have thy children become, so that even she who erstwhile ever patient was, has complainingly called unto me for help. He, the maker of all that is, forthwith spake, So shall it be unto her who has held upon her lap all those who are mine, and who hath come out of me, and who is also of me. I shall be born. And great shall be the rejoicing of her and my children who walk upon her surface. From the heart of man the weight of stone shall be lifted, and his eye shall be quickened with love, and I with my followers shall bring to them the ways and means that love doth know, and the whole known world shall again learn that I am life and love, that I, the creator of all things, am, even unto the ant and the huge elephant, who by one blow of his mighty trunk uprooteth the tree. They shall also know me as child, son, warrior, king, and priest, and in their midst I shall walk even with those who with me shall be born again, and seeing me and knowing me I shall draw all unto me, and close with me they shall again taste the sweetness of my love. With me shall come those who have ever known me through many incarnations, those who cover themselves with the qualities most like unto me, and whom my earth children have learned to look upon as gods, praying to them because of these attributes which they themselves wish to be blessed withal. Tell those who know the fullness of my bliss, those who have bathed in the nectar of those who have dwelt in the ecstasy of my loveliness, and those who in their devotion have known nothing else outside of me, those who have ever seen me in all things, and have feasted their minds only upon my beauty. Tell them that I with them shall be born of woman, and shall dwell for the span of man's life among men. And when the gods, those whom he had designated, heard the will of him. Great was the rejoicing in that abode, for no will knew they save the sweet will of the most lovely one, whose lotus feet they worshipped in ecstasy. Chapter 2. In the seat of Hari, the sacred city of Mathura on the Jamna, Vasudeva, in love and humbleness, took unto himself Devaki his bride, who by all was known as the most holy and virtuous maiden of that land. Peer unto the heart of her brother, the prince of Mathura, she was beloved among his people and among all women because of the purity of her heart and the sweetness of her face, to show to all the world his love for her. The prince himself, in proud fondness, drove the marriage car of his little sister princess, and the new brother-in-law, who by right of great wisdom, a pundit of high standing among the learned was. Gentle was the new bridegroom, even as he was wise. Fond glances of love he cast upon the radiant face of the young princess, and from all sides the blessings fell from the lips of the populace on the sweet bride, the learned bridegroom, and the gallant prince who held the reins because of his love for them both. But lo, in the span of a moment all was changed, for a voice there was which seemed to come out of space. O thou fool, why even he for whom in pride and love thou dost hold the reins to her marriage car, even she shall bear the child in her womb who shall sweep thy life from off the earth. Her son, the eighth, shall be the cause of thy death. The reins dropped from the hands of the prince, and springing to his feet, he caught the young bride by the hair as if to slay her, but was arrested by Vasudeva, who cried, O prince, noble wast thou ever, and ill would it be for thee to slay thy sister on the eve of her marriage. It is not for thee to take life, O king, thou who canst not give it. Death must come, but let it not be by thy hand, O prince, nor yet before her time. Take not the life of her who is thy sister, and thereby stain the heritage of virtue such as has been described unto thee. Listen to the words of wisdom that have come to us from the sages, without whom all life a desert would be. Well thou knowest that a man's actions do follow him from body to body, even as in walking he leaveth the imprint of each step behind the other, yet with each step doth he carry the dust on his feet from the ground whereon he did walk. Man hath many existences, each one portraying a character which is the outcome of his past self. As the present is the fulfillment of the threatening past, so man is the unfoldment and fulfillment of his previous existences. So seek not to blacken thy soul by the slaying of one of thine own blood, but seek rather to add new glory to thy light by preserving her who, all guiltless, thou dost seek to slay. Heap not thou upon thyself a dark and evil karma to confront thee and blight thee in thy other lives. It is but the chill breath of suspicion and the dread tremor of fear that surges heavy and dark through thy mind. Be warned by me, O prince, desist from thy unjust act, and speedily thy heart shall glow again, warmed by the embers of hope. A man too fearful of threatening danger and torment of that danger ever dwelleth. Even calamity may be turned aside by the smile of distrust, and fatality may forget thee quite while passing thy door. But when the soil of thy heart has been made fertile for fear, be sure its seed therein will thrive, finding sustenance for sprouting, and its fruit it will bear. Stand valiant, O prince, and be not like the timorous woman who runneth away from the shadow of danger, but to flee into the arms of the foe. Thy karma that counteth up the reckonings cannot be cheated. So be not, O prince of timid heart, and each son that cometh from the womb of thy sister Devaki shall be given to thee. Listening to the wise counsels of Vasudeva, the prince gave over his mad desire to slay his sister with his own hand, and the newly wedded ones proceeded to the home of Vasudeva. Chapter 3. True to his promise, Vasudeva brought unto the prince his firstborn, a son. The prince, on seeing that Vasudeva was true to his compact to deliver his son as it was born, gave it back, saying, It is not this son that I fear, but he who will be born. Thine eighth one, it is ordained, shall slay me. So take back thy firstborn, Vasudeva. Of him there is naught to fear. Vasudeva took the little one, and putting it in the glad arms of the young mother, said, O princess, it is with joy and yet with great foreboding that I return to thee the babe, for there is that in my heart which tells me that the prince thy brother spoke not the truth when thy boy he gave back unto me. For fear lodged in his eye, and anger vibrated in his voice, even as he said, From thy firstborn no harm will come unto thee. Yet clasp him to thy heart, young mother, and bathe him in thy glad tears of love, while he resteth on thy breast. But even while the tender young mother crooned her love songs to her soft nestling, the cruel edict went forth that the babe was to be taken from her, as also each newborn man-child that came into the land. For as a blighting flash from the clouds that strikes the healthy young sapling at the root, there had come to Kangsa's fear-burdened mind the knowledge that in his former birth he had been dethroned and slain by one of his own kin, who was said to have come from on high, even to still the power of the wicked and exalt the lowly and virtuous. This, in all its weight, had come into his heart, and louder than the bolts of thunder, the voice he had heard on Devaki's wedding day seemed to throb in his brain as he saw Vasudeva depart with his firstborn son, and great were the lamentations of the mothers who gave birth unto sons in that land. Many departed from the kingdom where Kangsa, the destroyer of the young, did rule. But when the wailing of the newborn child was no longer heard in all that kingdom, the prince in his madness deposed his father, Ugrasen, who became himself the king, and thrust Devaki, his sister, and Vasudeva into the dungeon of his palace, where the 6 sons that were born to them were dashed to death on the flagged floor in the hour of their coming by Kangsa himself. And now again there was quickening in the womb of Devaki, and the joy of natural motherhood was overshadowed by the terror of the fate of the new life that was to be a babe. But groundless was the fear of the agonized mother, for his coming was even before his time. For the earth sent a mist thick as the garment of death to shroud the palace of the king, and a deep sleep on the jailers fell on the hour that the child of premature birth felt the breath of earth, and drowned were its first weak wails by the sound of the winds that shrieked without. And the child that came to the world too soon, even before his time was completed, was dispatched in great haste to one who suckled him and called him her own. The child that by the near hand of love was saved from the hand of frenzied murder was the child that would walk with the Lord of love and play with the soul of the universe. And when the mists were gone, the king marveled that no child had come, while the mother marveled at the goodness of him who was the author of life. End of chapter 3. Chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Sree Krishna, the Lord of Love, by Baba Premanand Bharati. Chapter 4. Now the time was ready for Hari Krishna to come to be born and dwell upon earth. His sweet will it was to be as a man, and show man the beauty of love. It was then that Devaki again conceived, and a mother unto the 8th child would be. But lo, fear now to her was unknown, and glory shone around her like the sun filling the darkened dungeon with light, for the Lord of all light in her mind did come. And him as a child to the world she would bring, she who the mother many times of sorrow was now the mother of joy had become. O blessed art thou, wife Devaki, that the sweet will of the Lord of all love and all life was centered on thee, when he willed as a child among men to come. And thou, poor mother, whose heart was made to bleed for the bearing of sons, henceforth an ocean of love shalt become, for throbs not under thy heart the pulse of him who, love touched, love filled, and love made, pervades all lives and all that ever will live. And in that hour barren women, as a gracious boon of the Lord's coming into Devaki's womb, conceived to their own over-joyful surprise. And when Kangsa beheld the glory of her who was his sister, he knew that Hari, he who would quench his life, was within her. But when he sought to strike her low, the glow of the light that came from her overawed him quite, and the steel refused to reach her flesh. And many jailers were sent unto her by the king to slay. But when they looked upon her glory, lo, their hearts were quickened with love, and holy they became, and dropping their weapons fled from her side, and in meditation and prayer sought the light that showed them their darkness. And the seers and sages and gods and pundits and angels that see with illumined eyes of the Spirit the things that were and are, and the things that still will come, beheld the light that glorified the Mother, even though distance and mortar hid her from fleshly view, for the eyes that are quickened by Spirit cognize not the sight of the senses, and prostrating low, salutations they gave to the Lord of the universe, that became child in the Mother. O thou, the eye of the universe that sees all, the all-hearing ear, the heart that draweth unto itself all that sprang from thee, thou the seed and soul that hath in its centre the roots of all space and all that space containeth, thou the source of all love, the existence of all life, the dispenser of all light, the mystery of all wisdom, who, self-created, chose not to dwell alone, but willed creation to be, and from whose breath all living creatures sprang. O thou who suffered darkness to be, that beauty of light may be known, thou who by thy own sweet will dost thrust thy own children forth, a little but to draw them unto thy heart, again to heighten thy pleasure and theirs. We, thy blinded children, illumined, were made to see the light of thy coming to earth, thou the mystery and yet the revelation of all things art, thou that which hideth from man all things that he accounteth not to thy sweet will, and revealeth all unto him who sifteth each act to thy source. Thou who attunest the ear to the sound of all harmony, and keepest thy worlds and all life in motion. Thou who art the immensity of all things, we know that even as a man thou art come in our midst. O thou the source of all energy that is, thou the vibrations of all joy that thrilleth through all life, thou maker of all, who by thy coming dost lift us even unto thyself, again who by thy coming will show the vileness of self which unlike thee is, and how sin doth darken where virtue is. Thy power, O King of all kingdoms, is boundless. O why are we blessed with the truth of thy coming, we the blinded whom thou hast chosen to honor? Thus spoke the sages, the pundits and seers, the gods and Brahma, the Creator himself, whom the Lord of love had blessed with the power to know of his coming. Chapter 5. And the child was come, the child that was God, the God that became child, and time itself stood still in its passing to mark the wonder of that coming. The clouds ceased their onward sailing, and crowded in piles of white and blue and gray softness to marvel at the child's first smile. The heavens rained down blossoms of white and red and golden and blue lotuses. The mountains gave forth a great cry of joy as they in gladness met. The rivers heaved their billowy crests and chanted hymns of praise to him who was to make holy again their waters. The earth throbbed and thrilled as the streams of holy love shot through all her body, swelling her breast with new life, and feeding all that was living and moving within the recesses of her bowels, and clothing with great beauty that which lived upon her bosom. The roots of growing things grasped with a firmer hold her sides, and her loved creatures, those that walked and those that crept upon her surface, nestled once more as of yore, when all the world was holy, against her freshened and strengthened body with new affection and faithfulness, and her great heart uttered a mighty thanksgiving to him who had heard her appeal and succored her. The seeds that were in her mouth burst into rooting, the roots into sprouting, and the budding trees that graced her brow into glad blossoms. And the trees that were in blossom bore ripe fruit in the hour of his coming, and all those that hungered were fed. The cows, big with young, dropped their calves, and their bags were full unto bursting for all that came to take sustenance therefrom. The motherless cubs of wild things fearlessly suckled from her udder, and the cow lapped the soft furred sides of the young stranger with her long rough tongue, and all the wild things that hungered were fed in that hour. The eagle left its nest on the mountain's rugged side, and sat on the tree with quivering wing beside the dove that cooed its inward shout of love. The snake forgot to charm the timid songster that thrilled its joy close by, but lifting up its hooded head, it madly danced between the sunshine and the shadow that the exultant branches of swaying trees did cast. The huge elephant sportive became, and played with the deer and doe that rubbed against its haunches. The fierce lion, the leopard, and all the untamed creatures of the forests, with yearning call of love, turned their faces towards the place all light, where love as a little child was cradled in the arms of man. And in the hour of his coming many rainbows of wondrous color and beauty did span the skies, and the sun, liquid as molten love, became. And in that hour man and beast, and bird and flower, and all that lives upon the earth and underneath its surface and in the deep waters did look into the abode of love. And on the face of earth the smile of love did rest, and sin vanished from the heart of man, even as hunger disappeareth where plentiful food is dished to the hungered. The eye of the murderer looked for darkened places wherein to bide himself, but finding naught but light, did throw his blade into the purified waters of the holy river, and knelt at the feet of the holy ones, who in ecstasy were wrapped. The gray and shrunken face of avarice lifted itself toward the skies, and lo, glorified the countenance became. The face of bloated folly, the weakness of vanity, the vileness of ingratitude, the stubbornness of unbelief in that hour were unknown to man. A joy unfelt before on all the earth did reign, a joy that even yet doth thrill through hearts of life, for the child that was God, and the God that was child had come on earth to live with man. Chapter 6. And the child that was the Lord spoke to the mother in the hour of his coming, as the sovereign of all sovereignty would speak. Say unto him, Vasudeva, thy husband, to transport me to where the wife of the king Nanda doth lie, who but now giveth birth to a daughter. Pass through the gates, the chains shall be loosened, the keepers asleep at their posts. The warring waters of the Jamna a path shall make for him to pass with me in his arms. The gates of the palace on the banks of the river wide open shall stand, and the mother asleep in her chamber shall be. Put me on her breast, and bear away the daughter that to her is born. And when the prince shall ask Vasudeva for the 8th child that is born unto thee, do thou deliver the daughter of Yasoda unto him. Thus spake the Lord, and a helpless child he became. Vasudeva in wonder passed through the gates. The keepers all slept asleep as of death. The waters parted to make a way for him who carried the Lord to pass. Unseen, unheard, he entered the courtyard and palace, and passed the sounding halls and corridors until the room of the sleeping queen he spied, and taking the Lord from under his cloak, on the breast of the sleeping queen he laid it, and took in his place the wide-eyed daughter that cooed and smiled in his bearded face. And sleep still held the queen, and the city and the jailers embraced, till he stood at the side of Devaki once more, who wept at the sight of the smiling babe, who soon at the hand of her brother must perish. At break of day the prince entered the dungeon to seek the life of the 8th child of his sister. As he lifted the child on high to dash its head on the flagged floor, lo, the child slipped from his hand and rose, the while speaking, Karma, that counteth all reckonings up, cannot be cheated by thee, O prince. 'Tis written that thou must be slain by the 8th son of thy sister, and so it shall be. That child am not, O prince, but I came on earth for this hour to show thee thy folly. Dost thou think, O fool, that by human force, by the slaying of innocence, by the destroying of hope and joy in the heart of the mother, thou canst change the will of him who is the maker of all laws? Thinkest thou, O man, thou canst cross swords with him that knoweth the effect of each thought? That man thinketh even before the thinking is done. He whom thou seekest thou shalt not find. She ceased, and a light, never seen on earth or in heaven, enveloped the child as she vanished from view. And the prince rushed forth in his frenzy and madness, and sought not again to bring harm to his sister, but unfettered the chains were of husband and wife, and in freedom forth they went. End of chapter 6. Chapters 7, 8, and 9 of Sree Krishna, the Lord of Love, by Baba Premananda Bharati. Chapter 7. And the child that was God as Krishna was known, and men drew love from the name, for the name the potency of love contained, even as the seed the tree doth hold, or the bud the fruit of the tree enfolds. And all who spoke the name of Krishna felt the heart beat quick and high, and all who looked upon his face felt at once that love was nigh. And it came about that all the people who lived in the kingdom where the child Krishna was reared as the son of the king of Braya thronged daily to get but a glimpse of the child, who, though helpless like other babes, did seem yet held the power to draw all men unto him, even by the light of love that made him all beauty. As he sat on the arms of the queen, his foster mother bedecked with the ornaments and finery which the king delighted to bedeck him withal, lo, the light that radiated from his flesh did put the glowing jewels to shame, for love is the essence of beauty and light, and the child was the embodiment of love itself. So the light that flashed from the jewels was but as the light of glow worms that disappeareth when the radiance of the moon is about them. In despair the king sent messages to all the then known world to procure such jewels as might enhance the loveliness of his child, but ever when on his body they rested, dull they seemed on the glow of his flesh. But oft the child would reach his baby hands for the flowers that the populace brought in great profusion to lay at the feet of the child that was love, and as he held them close to his baby mouth, behold, their petals quivered and throbbed with love life, and deeper the color dyed their softness, and brighter the gold of their hearts did flame at the touch of the hand and the breath of the child that knew naught but love. And in the days when love as a child did dwell on earth, a great force of spirituality through all the land went forth, and the heart of all the world went up in praise for the mercies linked with ecstasy that enriched the cup of all life. Gleams of kindness and deeds of generosity and miracles of patience and justice and love, unheard of before, now naturally burst from the heart of man, as water bursts forth from a spring neath the rock. And the fields that before were dried and burned by the sun's rays, even as stubble, gave forth rich harvests, and the rivers and seas that were lost to man's eyes again in beauty before them rested. And the child that was the stalk and stem of love in beauty did grow, shedding his gracious smile on all the world. And Kamsa the king now heard of the marvelous child, whose smile brought a smile on all the world. Chapter 8. Then Kamsa, the brother of Devaki, besought the demoness Putana, mother of evil, to give each child in arms the milk of her breast, that should fill them with death at the sucking. And forth she did go, and prayed to be taken into the palace of the king, to behold the young child whose face gave blessing to all who on it looked. On her coming, the child stretched forth its arms to be taken to her breast, but when her breast between his lips he took, she bent her face to look at the babe, and fear made her pale and faint, for in the beauty of his eye the wisdom of all the world she beheld. And releasing the master she held at her breast, she pleaded and prayed that he cease his sucking, but harder he drew and firmer his grip was, till exhausted and lifeless she fell on the ground, while with a smile the babe played with the breast, arid crept on the body that lay in death. And when they came from far and wide to look at her who brought destruction and death to children, they beheld her swelled and stretched to immensity. For smiling evil seemeth not big, but robbeth of the smile that hideth its leer, and huge and misshapen it doth become. So with Putana it was, for she went to mother and suckle the young children, and thus bring death to the child of love. Clothed in sweet motherhood and kindness of purpose, all hearts were open to welcome her freely, yet evil she brought wherever she walked. But he who was all love at once cited her hatred for love by that which in her all unlike himself was, and straightway in her poverty of love and nakedness of heart she stood revealed in his eyes. And all saw her thus hideous and unsightly, and marveled at the blindness of their eyes. But mark now the kindness and power of love, by the touch of his lips upon her breast. She who never knew love by contact with him became sanctified, and the effort Putana put forth to bring death to Krishna under cover of love did make her for the moment a mother in truth, and for that moment of concentrated love in him the honor of divine motherhood on her was bestowed in that realm where hate is unknown, and all the world marveled when dead she lay at the aroma that rose from her huge body. But the child only smiled as he played on her breast. Verily the aroma of great sweetness reached to all the skies, for love is ever the master of hate, and love in its strength doth conquer all hate, and hate is purified by the breath of love, and sanctified it is by its hand. Chapter 9. A year has passed since the coming of Krishna, a year of peace and plenty to all, and the earth was relieved of pressure, and the minds of men were illumined by the light that shone in their midst, and the hearts that were cramped and narrow with pain grew big into bursting with the love that flowed from the child that was God. And Nanda prepared a great feast for the naming of him and the brother, Devaki's seventh child, who at birth premature had been dispatched to the land where Krishna now was. And the feast was attended by many guests who rejoiced on beholding the wondrous child who on that day a year had brought joy by his coming. And the priest was called, and the seer, and he who read the stars and read the Vedas alike. And when the stars he contemplated, he saw the wonder of his birth, and prostrating at the feet of him, spoke to them who gathered to hear. The oppressed he shall succor, the enslaved he shall free, and those that in danger are he will protect, and bring all blessings to the land where now he doth live. What and who he is you know not, but crowned with living stars of love, and adorned with the rainbow of promise on his breast, this child shall bring glory and bliss wherever he breathes. Oh, blessed was the day I looked in his eyes, and touched my hand low his holy feet, for in him the virtues and powers and might of love do dwell, that never before men with eyes have seen. But the little child smiled, then stretched forth its arms, and puckered its lips for the mother's sweet milk. The mother in pride placed it at the side of the cart that held brass vessels and articles of food, and turned to receive the congratulations of her guests, when lo, the child with its baby foot upturned the cart, and the cart and the vessels in pieces lay on the ground. And more they marveled at the child whose baby strength upturned the cart. Nor was this the only miracle of his babyhood, for one day the mother sat with the child in her lap, when lo and behold, so heavy he became that she felt as if the world were resting on her knees. The strength of her knees gave way, and the child sank to the ground, when a whirlwind came in the shape of a dust storm, and raised the child to heights unseemable, but soon again lightly on his feet he descended at the side of his mother. Wildly she clasped him in her arms and kissed him again, but he opened his baby mouth to her eyes, and lo, the universe she saw within. And in that moment unto her it was revealed that he whom she called her son was God, the seed and soul of the universe, the one who all things knew, yet who was unknowable to all. She also knew that the shadow he cast by his great universal will was Maya, and the offsprings or attributes of that Maya as demons were known. And she knew that a demon it was, urged on by Kamsa, that came in the shape of a whirlwind to carry her child away, and that he who was all love was mightier by far than the offspring of shadow could be. And thus the power of darkness again by love was overthrown. All this she saw in the space of a moment, and salutation she made to her Lord. But the child only smiled, and the mother again saw but her child, for how could the woman who suckled the babe dwell long on her child and know him as her Lord? End of chapter 9.